Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoterica and our side series, the Tech Deep End, where we take a look at some more complex projects. Today what we're working on is trying to fix the driving controls in IMSA Racing for the 3DO M2. Just taking a look at the ISO right here, that is the original release, and the issue with the original release is it is a beta, and the controls are quite difficult to handle. You'll see right here I am using a CH Products flight stick with analog controls, and the minute I get control of the car, I have spun out into the wall. And the issue is, even if you use a D-pad, a prototype controller, or a standard 3DO controller, the game in spots is quite difficult to control. So what we're trying to do is, there is a Tweak.Dat file in the game itself with some values for analog inputs. And what we're going to try to do is alter those and see what happens, to see if we can actually get to a spot where we can control the game a little bit better. So right here what you're seeing is I have the entire directory of the game exported out with Opera FS Reader, and everything matches completely fine. And this way I just did it off screen so you would have to see me copy 100 different files over one at a time. But we do have the entire working directory from the game on our hard drive, so we can move that over into Sheepshaver, and we're going to try at first to do this via emulation of Mac OS 9.0.2 versus the other using real hardware. And taking a look at that Tweak.Dat, you'll see all those different analog control values right there. There are 4 different values in brackets, and if you come over to IMSA Racing, you will see there are 4 cars. So those zeros at the bottom, it must have been for additional cars, so we can assume 4 cars in the game, 4 entries on that list. Those are the values we're going to try to change. So opening up Sheepshaver right here, it's a super useful program. I'm able to compile ISOs in the SDK for the M2, no big deal. So what we just need to do is start the program up, and it uses Macintosh Programmer's Workbench, and when everything is loaded in, what we'll be able to do is set the directory we want to work in and go ahead and compile the release. What we're trying to do is just compile the exact same game onto another disk. That way we know what's going on. This area right here on the worksheet is where you're going to be working. This is where you're going to put all your commands and everything you need like that, and it's where you're going to execute all your build commands. What we do need to do first is set the build directory, and you have to hit enter and not return. I'm typing it out for you on a PC. That's shift plus enter on the number pad, because return just gives you another line. Enter is what's actually going to set the command and let the SDK process what you're trying to do. So we just come up here, we pick the directory. We'll show you from the desktop. You're just going to pick CD-ROM master, and that's what the SDK pulls from. We're using 3.0 to start, and we're going to move to 3.1. But if we just type in lay tool, we have the greater than sign, cd-rom.tcl, and we hit enter. It's going to go ahead and process the entire file. It's going to take every file from the directories that we set up earlier, all the game files, all the folio files, all the drivers, every single thing that the M2 needs as far as files are concerned to be able to run a game just like you would on any other console. It's basically all the different associated executables and driver files, so it can actually function and address the hardware. But now you will see that that layout is successful, and we have the cd-rom.image file right here. We can just drag that out of the folder. We'll go ahead and close these windows down, and we can rename it whatever we want. That way when we get it back into Windows, we know what's going on. And that's just IMSA rebuild, so we know it's the exact same files. It is just a new compilation in the SDK of that. Send it to Windows, go over back to Windows. We're going to be working there for a bit. And that is the nice thing about Sheepshaver, is you can alternate between operating systems very quickly. But all you need to do to make the computer see it is you need to switch it from a .image file to a .iso file. It doesn't break anything. I've done this many times before, and it does work. When we load that up now, you're going to see we have a properly formatted 3DO M2 disks with all the different folders, everything associated with what you would expect to see when you see that file. So now what we're going to do is, now that we know we can rebuild it, we're going to go ahead and zip out the actual values. What I'm going to do is I'm going to zero them all out. I'm not at the first step trying to fix the controls. What I'm trying to do is see if these value changes actually alter anything. So I just put in all zeros. My anticipation is for analog controls, the car won't turn whatsoever. That's what I'm hoping to see, so I know what those values actually do. So if you take a look at the left, we have the original Tweak.Dat file with all the different data entries in it, and on the right, we have the new one, which is all zeros. So we come over to our build file, and we'll just go ahead and throw Tweak.Dat in the trash, because that is the original. We have protected it in a different folder, and then we're going to go ahead and reinsert our newly modified Tweak.Dat file back into the build. That way when we build it, it's going to have all those zeroed out analog entries to it. And then we'll just build the CD again. Many PC games have these, files you can alter to change the steering, so it's not that uncommon. And supposedly you can use a steering wheel with this. They did it in the 3DO office, what I was told. But you will see now that if we just take a look around, everything looks perfectly fine. That Tweak.Dat file is there. And if we save it out of the desktop, we'll know it exists. Burn the disk, pop it into our M2, and it completely failed. Do not ask me why, so let's switch to the Macintosh. Maybe that'll be better. I've made many an ISO from the SDK and everything's always worked. So back on Mac here, we made the image. And what I found out is something weird is going on. I have all the files and they're all the exact same size. I checked everything. But when we see and look around, we're missing like 40 megabytes from one image to the other. And the SDK has done things like capitalize things. You'll see in the beginning there, cow.utf on the original is in lowercase, and cow.utf is in uppercase on my build. And this is the first time I've ever seen this. I do not know what's going on, why I'm missing data, and why all the folders have been capitalized, because that's not what it looked like on the Mac. So the SDK was doing something quite weird, and this is the first time I've run up against it. And additionally, if we bring both files into a hex editor, we go ahead and put on the right the original IMSA release, and on the left my new build on the Macintosh, and we go ahead and compare the hex data. We've got a couple different alternating bytes there that aren't like too fundamental, but as we get a little bit further down, we're going to see that the source directories are odd, and basically the file changes almost immediately. So there's some issue with how this game was compiled and runs versus what software I have to run it on. So that leaves me with the following questions. Leave your thoughts down below, tell me what you think. First, can I actually pull the disk apart and rebuild it in the SDK with Opera FS Reader? Secondarily, where's the missing 40 megabytes worth of data? Because all the files are exactly where they're supposed to be. Third, why is the 3.0 SDK referenced in the 3.1 build? That makes no sense to me whatsoever. 4, why do I keep doing this to myself? There's probably like 5 people that have the hardware. What am I doing here? And the 5th one is, how should I move forward with this project? If you guys have any thoughts, leave them down below and let me know. Otherwise, thanks so much for watching. If you could do us a huge favor, hit that like and subscribe button. Just another complex technical problem I gave myself for no good reason and I'm now going to be frustrated by. Otherwise, we'll see you guys on Sunday with another episode as well as Tuesday. Thanks so much. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.